This is my reflection on my field placement. For the first question, it is what are your impressions of your internship so far? My impressions so far are it's a great environment and I'm happy that I am at my field placement. I am really excited to be there. I felt like it has so far I'm learning a lot and I'm being able to create relationships with the coworkers as well as the clients there. And I see that this is a spot where I could get a lot of education and get what I am looking for. Um, as well as it is a spot where it truly is trying to help the clients that are there. And I so far have seen how working with these clients, it also aligns with where I would want to work in social work with those that have disabilities and maybe behavioral problems as well. I find that it also is just has great energy and great support within the my field placement. More Maitri is just a spot where I could just see how everyone wants to see each other succeed, and I think that is so great. What has been a positive about your field experience so far? A positive definitely would have to be what the about 3 weeks ago I went on an outing, which is taking about three to four clients out and doing something. Um, which that could be going to a video game store, the mall, hiking trail. We went to the Denver Coliseum, which they had a gem and fossil show going on, where you can buy things as well as like learn more about gems. And I really loved that experience because it truly just showed me how it might be if I when I will be going on outings, which is what we're planning on for the second semester. Um, because I am so far only focused in the day program. That's where I am every day pretty much so far. So I could create that support with the clients as well as continuously building my relationships with them, understanding behavioral patterns, things like that. So going on that outing was very educational because there is one client, he when he gets overstimulated or he gets frustrated, he can cause self-harm to himself, which is biting his hand or hitting himself on the head. And during that outing, we were there a long time and we walked a lot. And because of that, he was starting to get frustrated and a little bit antsy and he was starting to self-harm. And watching Josh, the coworker, how he took care of that situation, being able to calm Doug down, telling him that it's okay, we can breathe, we're leaving right now. We'll get you lunch as soon as possible when we get there back to the facility. And I also just like to see it because it helped me note that hey, I should tell if I'm going on outings that we might be gone longer than expected, bring your lunch. Just in case, it's better to bring your lunch than be hungry and upset or tired. And it just made me realize that there's different areas and things that I should be aware of when doing these outings with the clients, um, to better support them. So I thought it was very fun, educational, and I truly loved seeing how the clients interacted with the people that we were meeting and what they were learning about when it came to the gems and how they also how the clients manage their own money, things like that. It was very interesting. What has been challenging? How have you managed to address the challenge? What has been challenging? So far, I think the big thing that has been most challenging is kind of understanding my position as an intern at the facility because a lot of the clients are line of sight, and because of that, there has to be a worker in the room at all times in all the rooms pretty much. There's about four rooms and I stay in the middle. There's the Dungeons and Dragons room, there's the arcade room, and then there's the music room. Pretty much they have one client that needs to be line sight, and sometimes when a client is like, I need to warm up my lunch. I don't necessarily I we all kind of are still trying to understand where I'm at in the facility because we all kind of assume that I can't be the person that can be line of sight for them. And so being able to just overcome these barriers is really important. So what I thought of is just like being able to be like, hey, I could take your lunch if you're okay with that, and I'll warm it up and bring it back to you. So that we don't have to I so I could better help the staff as well as still being able to do something. So just things like that, it's pretty much addressing where like what my position is at more matry. And I guess that is one area where I think that I could note to myself to ask Haley, my supervisor, um, to get a more grasp of what exactly I can do at my facility and what things I can't do. Um, but that I think that's been the most challenging right now. It's just kind of understanding my placement and what my role can be there. Um, has anything co- has anything come up that was surprising or unexpected? What did you learn from this? Um, I think one of the things that has came up that was super surprising to me was I was sitting in a behavioral therapy meeting with my supervisor, and well, before that she was giving me background on the client, letting me see the report that she has made for him. When I was learning about that, I saw that he was diagnosed with Asperger's, and I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Can I ask you a question? What exactly is Asperger's?" And she went on to, because I was like, "I only know the stereotype of Asperger's, which is pretty much that like they feel uncomfortable with like physical touch, they don't really know social cues, their communication can kind of be a little bit um robotic in a sense." And I was like, but I want a more depth because I don't want like the what I've seen on like movies and shows. I want a educational understanding and a social work lens of what this is. So then she went on to explain to me what it was, but the surprising part to me was that she told me how Asperger's is not his own disorder anymore. It is now on the autistic spectrum, which I found very educational because I didn't know that that was a thing. I thought it was still its own disorder, but they found how I guess they have found how Asperger's parallels with the spectrum, and they have since then combined it into the spectrum. And I thought that was very educational. I did not know that. And she showed me the book. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a for like the master. When you get your master's, you have to know like there's like diagnosis um in this big book. And like she was letting me read about like how Asperger's aligns with autism and things like that. So I found that very surprising and educational, and I was just like, wow. I just see how so many things are evolving and I don't even know about it, and it's just so educational when I learned something like that. So that was surprising. And what I learned from this is that one, Asperger's is now on the spectrum, and two, that everything is still changing in a sense. That these diagnoses that social workers and therapists are prescribing individuals, that they are changing, they are evolving, they are becoming more understanding, and to help better the clients that they are supporting and the so that they have a better treatment. And I just thought that was something to note. Um, has anything, oh, what have you learned about yourself as an emerging social worker at this point? What I've learned about myself is is how I felt. One thing I've learned about myself is how I feel that I am very outgoing, but then there are moments where I am stuck being not outgoing. And I want to better myself because as a social worker, you have to be outgoing and advocate for the clients you're working for the work you are doing. And sometimes I can feel myself where I am suppressing my voice because I am worried that I'm going to say the wrong thing. or I don't know what I'm talking about, just a little bit of self-doubt, things like that. And being here has like taught me that like it's okay if you're not right. You can learn from that mistake, and just like people make mistakes and things like that. Just being able to say what I am, say what I want in confidence, with confidence, and that will make me a better social worker. And I think that was very important to learn so far. And I'm trying to continue this growth within myself. I think that was very surprising to me because I always thought I was outgoing, but when I really when it came down to the wire, with all that I'm learning about, I saw that I feel sometimes I can feel uncomfortable speaking up, and I don't want that. I have to be okay with speaking up. So my field placement has taught me how to speak up, when to speak up, and continues to allow me to speak up. And I think that's very important. And I'm going to continue working on that because I could still see how it's something that I need to work on. So I definitely think that's something I wanted to highlight. Um, how is supervision structured at this point? Supervision, we have it once a week on Mondays for an hour. In her office, we have one-on-one meetings. Sometimes, my task person, I forgot what the right term for her is. Jamie is involved, but most of the time it's just me and Haley. Um, we have talked about topics we've covered a lot. We've talked about a lot. We've talked about like the master's program of social work, because I actually am a person that is going back and forth about going for my master's. So she's educated me with the papers she's wrote, how the course went, how long it took her, things like that. We've also talked about clients. We've talked about what their diagnoses are. Be How behavioral therapy has been applied to them, how has it helped them, how I feel there at the company. We've talked about the biopsychosocial assessments. We've also talked about what I want to learn there. I've told her areas that I'm really wanting to learn more about because I feel like it's a challenge for me, which one of those is being research. And I think that research is very important, but also I will always admit, and I always uh told Haley that I want to be vulnerable and honest with her, which I was saying that honestly, research, I don't like it. I don't think I like it because I feel like I'm not good at it though. And that is one area where me and her want to, maybe we are trying to see if I could get more depth on how to do research and apply that to the clients. Um, Things like that. So we've talked about research. We talked about policies and just a little bit, went over it a little bit, maybe need more depth in that as well. But we talked about policies and how there's just some things that like work for the company, but also there's issues that can arise with some of the policies. Um, we've also talked about her clients and how working with the clients, it's sometimes the thing that can be most difficult is working with the people around the clients. And I love that conversation because it really taught me how a lot of people may think it's going to be the clients that can be hard to work with, but necessarily it's actually the people around them. There's some that don't want to give the right support for the client. There's some that are just taking advantage of the client, because some of them, because they are host families or things like that, they can benefit off of the client. But also being able to be honest about what are some of the negatives within our work. I think that's important too, because then those are areas that we can talk about and what we could do better, what we could do to better the issue as well. Like, how can we advocate for the client? How, if you're struggling with the client's community support system, how do you overcome those battles? Um, when you feel like you're not being heard, how do you make yourself heard? Things like that we've covered. a bit. We've talked about a lot of things. I think one of the things too is just like how I am feeling there at my placement. Is there anything that that like I want to talk about? She always asks things like that. Um, so those are all the conversations I could think about so far that we have covered, the topics that we have covered. I believe that's it so far. What is your idea of how supervision should look like? How is your experience aligning or misaligning with your expectations for supervision at this point? I believe supervision is the way that we are doing it, having that one-on-one meeting, being able to have vulnerability, confidentiality, but also that support. Um, I honestly think that for myself, I'm an honest person as well. I like to be honest about to with who I am working with. Like, hey, this is who I am. I want support in this area. I think that's really important because it really shows what exactly you want for yourself. And Haley's also honest and she is honest about the work that we're doing and how I can best apply what I'm doing, how I could best apply the information and education I am learning from my social work courses to the clients. Um, I love our supervisions because I also feel like, in a sense, like they feel not so stern, and I really have liked that because it kind of gives you that like comfortability as well. I really enjoy that. Um, I also have liked having the that we have set like Mondays as our days to me. Knowing that like that's what we're gonna do on Mondays. Every Monday is what we're gonna meet. And instead of kind of like trying to figure it out which different days we can meet, just being able to have a set date, in an hour as well has been enough time to discuss everything. And if anything comes up, she's always saying that I can just go up to her and ask her. And if I need time to like talk to her, we could set a time during this meeting as well. We talk about what it is that I need to address. Sometimes I talk about work assignments that I'm working on currently and how they can relate to what I am doing there or what she's doing as her in her position. So I think this is really aligning with my expectations. I really do. I have loved the one-on-ones. I also think I just love how there is honesty and vulnerability and comfortability as well. So I think that's really important because it makes me feel like I can really be honest and be myself with Haley, and I really have liked that so far. What is working well? What is working well with with supervision so far? Is there anything you would like to be different about your supervision? What is working well so far is being able to we kind of set what we're going to talk about before the meeting. So sometimes we're like, okay, so this week we're going to go over a client's file, and we will go over the client's file, and then by the end of it we're going to be like, next meeting we're going to talk about um what exactly you want to improve on. And then the next meeting we do that and we talk about how I have improved on it or how I need to continue to improve on it. Kind of setting what we want to talk about, as well as her being at the beginning, just being like, is there anything else you want to talk about, or is there something else that we need to address? Just having that ability to address anything that needs to be addressed, as well as having these meetings to also learn what I could do better, feedback from the other staff for myself. I think what's working really well though is just also having that weekly meeting on being on Mondays because it addresses with my schedule and as well as hers. Have you been receiving feedback from your supervisor? I have received some feedback from my supervisor. Not necessarily from Haley because Haley and I really only have conversations. We haven't had like that much shadowing in time. I haven't really had that much time with her when it comes to like shadowing her. I've worked with most of the other coworkers, and Josh has given her feedback for me, and she has told me it, and I thought that was very nice to hear. Not Josh, Jacob. another coworker, Jacob gave feedback on how I'm doing, and I think that's important too because I also see that they are checking in on that Haley's also checking in on how I'm doing, and Jacob's as well as being able to give the feedback that is needed on how I'm doing. She has given it to me, and I was very grateful for it because it helps me know that I am on the right track right now for what I am doing at Mormon Tree. So I have received some feedback. I think that too. I think I'm gonna highlight to Haley though that I would like to see a little bit more feedback. I am a person that I do enjoy feedback. I understand it's okay if it's not good feedback, if it's something that I need to improve on, but because at the end of the day, any feedback makes me a better individual, better social worker, better student, things like that. I really do think feedback's important. Next, what social work knowledge, theories, or skills have you used in your work at your agency? Um, there's been a lot of course materials that I have gone through these past 3 years. I am just trying to remember all of them if I can. So far, one of the ones I would highlight is grief. My class right now I'm taking grief. Um, it I have seen how because there's a lot of clients that have trauma and one of those traumas is grief because a family member has died. One individual uh kind of struggles with their grief because they have had issues with the person that has passed, and being able to apply what I've learned about how there's different types of griefs and how grief is different for literally everyone. And at the end of the day, every single person is going to go through grief. Literally, every single person is going to go through grief. It could be from a person, an item, a job, losing a job. Grief is just so different. And being able to see that and seeing how what I've learned and being able to be able to give ideas of how one can overcome that grief has been really important. We've also I've also been able to see how the biosocial biopsychosocial assessments are made for individuals. Haley has gone over them with me and how how makes an assessment for an individual. Um, I've also seen how from like my generalist practice one class, we were learning more about interviewing and how it's structured and how it should look, open and closed questions. And I have seen how that can I haven't personally applied that yet, but I was in a therapy meeting with Haley the other day, shadowing, and I was able to see and be able to make points and notes in my head of when she was using that. And I think that was really important because I was able to kind of identify those open and closed questions as well as seeing how she structures her meetings and how she's able to. I remember one thing to highlight for interview like meetings or interviews is like that silence. It can help bring more information from the client if you if you ask a question and then if they answer kind of like short, they're like, it was good. And then if you sit there a little bit longer and quiet in silence, it brings out more information. I saw that and I wanted to note that because I sometimes I could get a little, I hate that awkwardness and I could talk a little bit too much over that silence. And I was able to really see how that silence was able to really support the meeting because the client was able to open up more about what they were going through and how their week was going. So that was really important. Is there anything else? Is there anything that has been confusing or surprising as you have seen theory applied to practice? Um, I think by itself, theory can be kind of confusing because sometimes I kind of get it's kind of blurry. The line between therapy and theories. I think that because like there's cognitive therapy that BT is using with the clients and just being able to identify the theories that Haley's like applying to them and how those theories are best supporting the client. I think that's theories is somewhere where I also want to learn more about and ask Haley more questions about. And maybe I actually want to note that in our next meeting, I want to ask her about how she has applied theories within these clients that she has worked with, and how has it best supported the client, and if there has been times where the theory was not working, if they had to make a reevaluation and and go back to the drawing board and see where they can which theory best what theory best supports the client. um, so I think it was the thing that I could say is that theories to me can be confusing, especially like when I was taking my theories class. I was I got this gist of it, but like I want more depth in it. So being able to really understand how the theories work and how you implement them into a client's life, as well as like kind of not making it seem like when you're applying a theory, you're doing it like a doctor patient type of thing, but you want like the client to also feel like they are making their own decisions as well, because you don't want to make it seem like you have that much like you have all this power and you're telling them like this is what you need to work on and this is what it will do for you, but for them to also be like, okay, I could see how that could fit for me as well. um is there anything else you would like to share with your instructor or receive feedback on? um Anything else I would like to share? I would just like to share that I truly do like my placement. I have really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the relationships I am building so far. Um, I am really excited to start like being there a longer time to like really find my place and set my feet into my field placement. I have really enjoyed learning more about how what I'm learning in class and seeing how it is applied to in the field. That has also been a really I've really enjoyed that because it just like I just love seeing like, oh, I am learning this and I'm seeing it work in real time. It's just kind of crazy to me because at the end of the day too, like I've only been in school and being able to do some social work now that I've learned some things and I'm continuing to learn some things. Seeing how that's being applied is amazing to me, and it makes me more excited to really be in this field. Um, if there is any feedback that you would like to give me after all that I have said about my in my reflection about my placement, I would love and take it, and I will make sure to apply it in the future at my placement to make myself better. Other than that, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day.